The movie kicks off in Osaka, where there's this big shot Yakuza boss. One day, he gets this strange envelope, and inside was black sand. Now people say that if you get an envelope filled with black sand, you're pretty much marked for death. They say it means a gang of ruthless ninja assassins is coming for you. But our Yakuza boss thought it was all just a silly tale from the past. Well, turns out he and one of his buddies didn't take that black sand envelope seriously enough. Out of nowhere, something sliced off his buddy's head. And before you know it, the Yakuza boss and all his crew met the same fate. These ninja assassins are like ghosts, always lurking in the shadows, and they took down the whole Yakuza gang. So, it turns out those old legends about the assassin ninja clan were actually true all along, and they're still out there, doing their thing, no matter how much the world changes. Next up, we switch to a scene where there's this Europol agent named Micah. She's talking to her boss, Maslow, trying to explain something important. Micah's got this theory. She thinks there's a connection between a bunch of high-up politicians getting bumped off and this Ozunu clan she's heard about. She's pretty convinced that the Ozunu clan are these ninja assassins for hire. And get this, she says they always charge the same price for their jobs. So, Mike is saying that the Ozunu clan might be the ones who pulled off that big massacre at the Yakuza joint in Osaka a while back. But Maslow's not so sure. He's kinda skeptical about Micah's investigation because most folks still think this Ozunu clan is just some old legend. Now we're in Berlin, and there's this guy about to do his laundry. Over yonder, there's a lady struggling with her washing machine, so she asks the guy for a hand. He's all nice and goes over to help her out, but she suddenly pulls out a knife and tries to stab him. They start duking it out, a real wild fight. Meanwhile, the laundry guard, who's just checking things out, walks in and, whoa, the room's empty. There's blood oozing from one of the washing machines, and when he opens it up, there's a body inside. Fast forward to the next day, and Maslow's having lunch with Micah. He spills the beans to his team that he looked into Micah's theory. Turns out, he found some big scoop about this ancient secret group called the Nine Clans. Maslow says there's a KGB agent named Alexei Sabatin who's been trying to expose this Nine Clans bunch. They're the ones behind all those big shot people getting whacked for years. But everyone thinks Sabatin's just off his rocker and has some mental issues. Now, let's switch gears to the guy from that crazy laundry fight, Reizo. He's back in his apartment. See, Reizo's been living in Berlin for a while now, but he's a ninja, the real deal. His place is like a ninja's paradise, with hidden ninja gear all over. Reizo starts reminiscing about his past. Back when he was a kid, he was an orphan, and Lord Ozunu took him in. Lord Ozunu gave him and the other students this whole spiel about how they're gonna be ninja assassins for life, no turning back. They had to go through some hardcore training, both physically and mentally. Lord Ozunu was molding them into these ruthless killers. But in Reizo's story, he had a soft spot, a classmate named Kiriko. Even though they were in this tough ninja training together, she showed him kindness. When Reizo was hurting from his training injuries, Kiriko took care of him and tended to his wounds on his legs. That kindness stuck with him as he grew up. Now we're over at Sabatin's place. Micah goes to visit, and Mrs. Sabatin gives her a warm welcome. Micah's curious about what Sabatin found out regarding the Nine Clans and their connection to the Prime Minister's death. So, Mrs. Sabatin spills the beans. She says her hubby was all gung-ho about this investigation, feeling pretty confident. But then, something strange happened. As he dug deeper into the Nine Clans stuff, he got seriously spooked. He started bolting extra locks on all the doors and windows in their house. He went all tech-savvy and set up CCTV cameras and motion sensors everywhere. And that's not all. He went full-on with the lights, making sure there were no shadowy or dark spots where someone could hide. The guy was really shaken up. One day, Sabatin had a meeting with a guy. Mrs. Sabatin had no clue what they were yakking about, but it seemed like a heavy chat. After that talk, Sabatin looked downright terrified. Here's where it gets even stranger. Right after this mystery dude visited Sabatin, the power in their house just went kaput. Total darkness. And in the midst of this blackout, Sabatin met his end. Mrs. Sabatin didn't spill all the details about how that went down to Micah, but she did hand over Sabatin's investigation files about the Nine Clans. When Micah takes a look at those files, she finds some pretty damning stuff. There's evidence of these ninja assassins, and even Reizo shows up on CCTV footage at Sabatin's place shortly before the guy kicked the bucket. Fast forward to the next day, Micah's in her office when her boss, Zabransky, pops in. He's asking if there's anything fishy going on with Maslow. Micah tells him everything's hunky-dory with Maslow. But when Micah and Maslow meet up outside, Maslow spills the beans that Zabransky grilled him about Micah's activities. Now they both start thinking that somebody's keeping tabs on them because of this Nine Clans investigation. This Nine Clans business is tied to some big shot folks around the world, and these assassin clans have powerful backers. They figure it's a warning sign and decide they'd better watch their backs. Now, let's jump to Reizo thinking back to his time with Kiriko. Back then, he caught Kiriko cutting the bonsai rope, and he warned her that she could get into trouble. But Kiriko had a different view. She believed that every living thing, even bonsai plants, had a heart and the right to choose their own path in life. Reizo thought he was different and didn't have a heart, but Kiriko had him listen to his own heartbeat. She said everyone, including them, had hearts. After that, young Reizo had to go through tough training to sharpen his sense of hearing. Lord Ozunu made him wear an eye patch for a whole year and do everything blindfolded to get used to the dark. Ninjas had to be ready for anything, you know. It was tough at first, but Reizo got the hang of it. He could fight just by relying on his sharp sense of hearing. He even heard Kiriko's heartbeat, even when they were apart. Then came a tough day. Kiriko had to hurt someone with a knife, but she refused. Lord Ozunu got mad and hurt her face, locking her away as punishment. Reizo felt bad for Kiriko, so he secretly visited her and gave her water. One rainy night, Kiriko decided she had to escape from the Ozunu ninja school. Reizo knew the consequences for escape were deadly, but he tried to convince her to stay. Kiriko was determined, though, and climbed over the wall to freedom. The scene jumped to the present. Reizo already knows about Mika and has her address. Meanwhile, Maslow, who's been on the radar of some top-notch intelligence agencies since he dug into Alexei Sabatin's Nine Clans investigation, tries to warn Mika about the impending danger. He gives her a gun, just in case, and tells her to find a safe hideout. But when Micah gets back to her apartment, the whole building's plunged into darkness because of a power outage. She expected this, but what really throws her off is finding an envelope filled with black sand in her place. Things take a turn for the worse when she's suddenly attacked in the pitch-black darkness. Luckily, an iron chain appears out of nowhere, blocking the assassin's sword and saving her life. Turns out there were two ninja assassins lurking in Micah's dark apartment. One of them tries to help Micah and manages to knock out the ninja who was after her. But the rescue ninja warns that more are on the way, and they won't stop until Micah's gone for good. And here's the big reveal. The rescue ninja steps out of the shadows, and it's none other than Reizo. Micah, who recognized him from the CCTV footage at Alexei Sabatin's place, is shocked that he just saved her life. With no time to waste, they make a quick exit before the other ninja assassins can catch up and finish the job. Now let's dive into a flashback. Kiriko, who tried to make a run for it, got chased down and caught by Lord Ozunu's disciples. They tied her up and put her through some brutal torture for her defiance. Lord Ozunu decided to make an example out of her. He ordered one of his top students, Takeshi, to execute Kiriko in front of everyone, hoping to scare off any other students who might try to escape. Takeshi knew how close Reizo and Kiriko were, so he carved a sly grin at Reizo before stabbing Kiriko in the heart. Kiriko was gone, and Reizo couldn't do a thing to save her. The flashback keeps rolling, and now we see Reizo as an official ninja assassin, about to carry out his very first mission. His target was no pushover, but after a fierce battle, he managed to take the guy down and snag his gold watch as proof. Reizo took the watch to Lord Ozunu, who told him to keep it as a reminder that he was now part of the legendary ninja assassin clan. But then, Lord Ozunu dropped another bomb. He ordered Reizo to execute a kunoichi, who tried to pull a Kiriko and escape. Reizo couldn't stand the thought of another tragedy like what happened to his best friend, so he decided to take on Lord Ozunu and the ninja assassins right then and there. Reizo managed to injure Lord Ozunu's face, but he was outnumbered and overwhelmed by the squad of ninja assassins, who had skills just like his. It was a tough fight, and Reizo ended up falling from the top of the building. Somehow, he survived and decided to keep training to thwart all the Ozunu clan's assassination attempts. Back in the present, Micah and Reizo decide to lay low in a motel for a bit. Reizo has a plan, and he tells Micah to clean up without using soap and change her clothes. Then he smokes a cigarette and blows the smoke over Micah to mask her scent, because ninja assassins have noses as sharp as wolves. Those assassin ninjas can track people just by sniffing their scent. Micah, thinking Reizo wants revenge on the Ozunu clan, contacts Marlowe to arrange a meeting. They all gather in a remote spot to talk about their situation. But Reizo can't shake the feeling that something's off this time, and he starts getting suspicious of Marlowe. And yep, his gut feeling was right. Before long, special forces swoop in and zap Reizo with a high-voltage shock that leaves him paralyzed. They whisk him away to a secret location for questioning. Feeling betrayed by Maslow, Micah demands an explanation. Maslow says he had no choice because the big shots in charge told him to nab Reizo to spill the beans on the Ozunu ninja assassin clan's involvement in all those high-profile assassinations. But he promises to stick by Micah's side and protect her. He even gives her a tracking device so they can find her if things go south. Micah approaches Reizo, who's under watch by Maslow and the Europol agents. Reizo warns them that the Ozunu clan ninjas already know where they are and will strike soon. Micah tries to tell everyone, but they don't believe her. Then the lights go out, and the whole place is plunged into darkness. Micah was determined to get back to where they were keeping Reizo, while the soldiers who had ignored her warning earlier were now in a real pickle, trying to figure things out in the dark. Little did they know, a gang of ninja assassins was ready to take them down. Just in the nick of time, Micah unlocked Reizo's chains, just as a ninja was about to strike him with a sword. Reizo told Micah to save herself. Meanwhile, Maslow and his special forces were struggling to handle these ninja attacks. These ninjas were experts at fighting in the dark. Reizo, on the other hand, was taking on a whole bunch of Ozunu clan ninja assassins by himself. Despite being alone, he could hold his own against them because of his relentless daily training. But more and more of these Ozunu clan ninjas kept showing up, and the odds were stacking against him. Eventually, Reizo had to make a run for it to save his own skin. As for Micah, she managed to escape from the building and hopped in a car, but the ninja assassins were relentless in chasing her down. They were dead set on getting her. Meanwhile, Reizo, who had also escaped, found himself in a street battle with the ninjas in Berlin. One of them slashed his stomach and was about to finish him off when Micah swooped in and took out the ninja. She then helped the seriously wounded Reizo to a hideaway because he was dead set against going to the hospital. Inside the hideout, Micah and Reizo hatched a plan. Reizo decided he'd surrender to the Ozunu clan to save Micah. Shortly after, Micah spilled the beans to Maslow, who managed to track her down. She revealed that the Ozunu clan had captured Reizo and taken him to their base. Now, let's check in on Reizo. While he was on his way to the Ozunu clan's headquarters, he was trying to heal himself using their secret technique. When he finally got there, Lord Ozunu wasted no time in putting him on trial. Lord Ozunu felt that Reizo had brought shame to the Ozunu clan, and he wanted to make an example out of him. He decided to sentence Reizo to death, hoping to eliminate the only potential successor to lead the Ozunu clan in his place. As the execution was about to go down, Takeshi, one of the top students, realized that Reizo had a tracking device inside him. Turns out Micah and Reizo had planned this from the get-go. They wanted to use the device to lead Micah and the Europol special forces straight to the Ozunu clan's secret headquarters. Before long, the special forces stormed the place, and they were ready to take on the ninja assassins who thrived in the dark and shadows. The Europol troops lit up the whole area with flares, making it tough for the ninjas to hide. Micah, rolling with the special forces, busted Reizo out of there. Then, Reizo had a deadly showdown with Takeshi, who was almost as skilled as Lord Ozunu. Reizo had been training hard, waiting for this moment to avenge Kiriko's death. Despite Takeshi putting up a fierce fight, Reizo finally managed to best him and settle the score for Kiriko. Still battered and covered in blood, Reizo faced off against Lord Ozunu, whose fighting skills seemed ageless despite his body starting to show its years. Lord Ozunu was deflecting Reizo's attacks with ease until he was finally pushed back and paralyzed. Right when Lord Ozunu was about to end Reizo with his sword, Micah stepped in and shot the clan leader, saving Reizo. But then, something shocking happened. Lord Ozunu vanished into the darkness, dodging Micah's attack, and reappeared behind her, driving a blade right into her heart. Reizo was consumed by rage, seeing Mika killed right before his eyes. He mustered all his remaining strength and went back to face Lord Ozunu in a fierce and deadly duel. Finally, Reizo managed to take down Lord Ozunu using a deadly move called Shadow Blending, a technique he had never used before. It was the most lethal move of the Ozunu clan, reserved only for assassinating their targets. With Lord Ozunu out of the picture, Reizo still heard Micah's heartbeat. He carried her away from the flames. Outside, Maslow and the Europol special forces had managed to defeat the Ozunu clan's ninja assassins. Reizo then told Maslow a surprising thing. Micah survived Lord Ozunu's lethal attack because of her unique body condition. Her heart was on the right side of her chest, which saved her. After the special forces left the secret base and the fire was put out, Reizo decided to stay behind. He climbed the same wall that Kiriko had used to escape from there. At the top, he gazed at the beautiful mountainous scenery that surrounded the place. Reizo smiled, savoring the sweet taste of freedom, a dream that had driven Kiriko for the first time in his life. And with that, the movie came to an end. So the moral of the story is never underestimate the power of Laundry Day. He might end up in a ninja showdown.